It's Thursday, June 19th, and as Bernie and I record this episode, it was supposed to be a series recap episode between the Cardinals and the White Sox, but we should have known after 2 weeks without a doubleheader that the Cardinals would get another one. So as we record this right now, it's 4-1 St. Louis in the top of the fourth. Alec Burleson and Nolan Arenado went back-to-back in the inning prior. Congratulations to Nolan. Home run number 350 for the Cardinals third baseman. What a career he has had. Welcome back to Cardinal Territory. Bernie and I finally reunited. It's been so long. Bernie, how are you? I haven't seen you in forever, I feel like.
I'm doing good. I missed you. You know, I'm used to doing 2 of these a week with you, and I thought, well, maybe I was designated for assignment or something. Yeah. So I was just
the show would go so, no way.
Yeah. No, it's good to be back with you. And yeah, it's always a lot to talk about. The Cardinals are interesting, if nothing else. Whether they're good or they're bad or there's a drama, it's just they're always interesting, you know, because of that lineup churn, and Ollie's got to make all these decisions. And you have McGreevy pitching today, and it's just kind of like, are they really going to send him back to Memphis? I mean, there's just always something going on.
Well, let's jump right into it because, shocker, you read my mind. As we mentioned, the Cardinals are still playing right now their second game of Thursday's doubleheader, but they did take the series thanks to a comeback win in Game 1, 5-4. Shout out Wilson Contreras, game-tying home run. Shout out the White Sox defense for the go-ahead unearned run that won that game. But really, I thought that, and we talked about this in Tuesday's episode, the win on Tuesday was they needed to do that. They needed to at least win the series, bare minimum. They can hold on to this lead. Obviously, they'll take a sweep. Would do wonders to get them back to a good place ahead of their 7 straight games against their NL Central opponents. But I think Michael McGreevy, who's allowed 1 earned run so far, this is fun. It's like we're watching the game together in real time.
We should have done a live stream. Just we're able to talk about the game, not play by play. We could have done like a game breakdown, you know, kind of play by play, but for when something happens.
Okay, filing that away for my next off series. I would love to do that. I would check with the Foul Territory guys. What a fun idea. Okay. Yeah. So back to McGreevy before I get super sidetracked. I checked out from the team for maybe 12 hours. And as a beat writer, that you're apparently not allowed to do that, because imagine my surprise as I have MLB Network on my TV this morning, getting ready to go hang out with my mom in St. Charles. And on the little ticker, it says McGreevy as they're probable for today. And I said, oh, all right. So after a couple texts with the manager, yes, Michael McGreevy brought up to be the 27th man. As we know, this will not impact his availability or eligibility to be called up again on June 24th, which is the Tuesday game between the Cubs. Should the Cardinals elect to go that route, they will end up using another temporary 6-man starter, similar to how they have in weeks prior. When they do that, not sure. They were tentatively looking at June 24th, for that date. Not sure with the doubleheader if they will, but we will see Michael McGreevy again at some point in the next couple of weeks after, as the Cardinals' next off day is not until July 3rd. So hopefully, and it's going well so far, if Michael McGreevy can handle the Mets and the Dodgers, he should be able to handle the White Sox. But at this point, Bernie, we understand and we know why Michael McGreevy isn't in this rotation. But I mean, what else does he have to do? And what's, in your mind, what's the best path to get him in St. Louis pitching continuously every 5-6 days?
Well, you know, I got to be honest with you. I mean, I do understand it. Okay. I do understand it from a logical standpoint, but then I sit here, I got a lot of time to think, you know, up in my lair, which is my office. I have a lot of time to think. I'm in here all day. And then I get annoyed because the Cardinals, you know, they want to tell us over and over and over again, it's a runway season. It's a runway season. Young players, opportunities. Here we go. Roll out the runway. Okay. And it's like, yeah, okay, we're all on board with that. But then they make decisions that indicate, hey, we're trying to win. You know, we got to try to win. Okay. So yeah, we're going to give ourselves the best chance to win. It's not always going to be about the runway. But this is what irritates me about the McGreevy situation. He's both. Okay.
You're right.
He's both. He fits the runway. In fact, he may be the epitome of a runway pitcher or player. And he also increases your chances of winning because he's really, really good. So why isn't he in your rotation? I'll try not to holler. I don't want anyone to think I'm hollering at you, Katie. But it's like, if you think about it in those terms, it's just exasperating because it really doesn't make a lot of sense. But to your question, I don't know. Do you trade? Do you trade Fetty at the trade deadline? Do you say thank you to Miles Michaelis, but we have to move on? Do you send Palante to Memphis to work on some stuff? I don't know. But if this is a runway season and you have a runway pitcher and the pitcher happens to be outstanding every time you give him a chance, why does he have to take his suitcase back to Memphis so often? It's just
Here, Bernie, let me add a banner for you. I feel like this is something that this should be the new segment.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
You're spot on. Like, he is the best option for runway and results. And we haven't seen him, and I understand it. I have never really loved it, but I get what they're doing, and I can't think of something that disproves their theory here, because they are right. I just don't like it. Okay, that's fine.
Right. That's right. Right.
But a credit to McGreevy, who, when I talked to him after the Dodgers spot start, said, like, hey, this, it's not ideal, but it's the business. I get it, and I'm in a good spot mentally here, and I can handle this, and I believe him. And that's something that I think is only going to suit him more going further, and it's why Ollie Marmol likes him so much. Look, it's not like the Cardinals don't want Michael McGreevy in St. Louis. Do you know who probably wants him here the most? Ollie. Do you know who also wants him here? Mo. Like, it's not a matter of everyone, like, not.
Well, they're in charge, aren't they?
They're in charge. They want him here. They don't have room for him. I think you're right when you gave those three options. I think the highest probability of those options is the Cardinals look whether they buy or sell, and that's a different conversation. I'm not ready to have that conversation on June 19th. But whether they buy or sell, you can trade Eric Fetty, who is in his final year of a $7.5 million contract, who's having a good year, who is going to be owed, quick math, maybe $2 million for the rest of the season, probably a little less, to be a league average starter and has value. You can offload him and trade him and create a spot for McGreevy if you feel comfortable with the depth in AAA. Now, some heavy arms have come back from the injured list. Quinn Matthews is back. Teen Hens is back. Jacoa Roby just promoted to AAA earlier in the month. I'm not saying rush them up. That's the last thing the Cardinals should be doing with those three pitchers. But you maybe feel a little bit more comfortable with your depth in August if those pitchers stay healthy and perform well. That's the conversation that you can have and say, maybe the Cardinals trade Eric Fetty, create that position for McGreevy, just 2 months of runway. And by doing that, maybe you're also boosting your team, because by trading Fetty, by trading almost the majority of these guys, if the Cardinals decide to do that, it's not about the return, okay? It's about creating other opportunities for playing time where, think of the Detroit Tigers last year, for example. What the Tigers did at the deadline, offloading expiring talent and opening up runway for some of their younger guys, actually made them a better team. They snuck into the playoffs. That's the ideal blueprint for the Cardinals. If they can do that with an Eric Fetty, because I don't think they're going to be able to do that with Michaelis, full no trade clause, owed a little bit more money, hasn't been as effective as Eric Fetty. And I don't think they're going to move Palante to the bullpen because of the depth reasons. So if they can offload Fetty and bring McGreevy in, that makes sense, but that just goes into if they trust their depth. Right now, I guess we'll see McGreevy in like random bursts of happiness, because I'm with you, Bernie. He should be here.
He should. And then, Quinn Matthews, I thought the Cardinals, the people down below were really smart. I mean, he had some shoulder fatigue, some mild distress, and they did the smart thing. They not only shut him down, but when he was in his downtime, they kind of smoothed out some mechanical flaws. I mean, this is my hope. I think it's everyone's hope for the Cardinals player development and farm system. You're going to have like really good, smart, proactive handling of all your guys, but your best guys. So since he's been back, he's made 3 starts and he's been outstanding. His strikeout rate is like 35%, and ERA like 1.36 or something. But the point is, it just reminds you just how talented he is. Now, if he continues down this track of just striking people out and looking great and everything else, well, the runway is going to get even more crowded. And I know that the Cardinals can push Matthews back until 2026. I get it. But I'm just wondering, other than Libator, and I commend the Cardinals for giving him a shot this year, are they ever we all talk about, well, they don't have enough pitching prospects. Oh, it's been a failure for years. They don't develop their own. Well, they're finally developing their own, and you sort of have them parked in neutral. I mean, metaphorically speaking. So I'm going to see. It's really interesting. It's whether Quinn Matthews becomes a factor in this, and because maybe he's next in line after McGreevy. Whether this would be some kind of spur to push McGreevy forward, and then to use the runway method, get rid of the runway metaphor again, and then the next pitcher for takeoff would be Matthews, right? I don't know.
Maybe Matthews, maybe Roby. I think you can have the conversation with both of those. I think Tink Hence is a little bit more behind.
Sure.
But again, this just all goes into what I'm really excited about Quinn Matthews, and I'm really excited about Tekoa Roby. You know who else is really excited about Tekoa Roby? Ollie Marmol. He's like it's not the major league manager's job to memorize the minor league stat lines. Out of all the things that they have on their plate, that, he'll get the email and he'll understand what's going on then. But he seems to always know what's going on with Roby. So that says a lot about where he is on Ollie Marmol's scale. This all goes back to depth, though. And creating depth and ensuring you have enough is important. The Cardinals, knock on wood, again, have not had any major pitching injuries. And they actually candidly probably expected McGreevy in the rotation by now because they were planning for an injury. It's so rare in this day, especially this season, to not have a significant rotation injury. I'm going to stop talking about it before I jinx them. But it's a good problem to have. It doesn't make it any more frustrating. So looking forward to see. Oh, it's 6-1. I wonder how they scored.
I don't know. You know what? I had the game on TV here, and I have a pretty big TV set in my office. And I noticed when I was getting ready for you, like because of the camera shots and all this stuff, it was like flickering. Yeah. I thought like in the background, it's like the lights would be changing color, and people would be thinking, what is he doing in there? Is he like what's up with that? Is he having some kind of psychedelic moment or something? So I thought I better pause it.
Let's have that. We'll do an episode on like psychedelic experiences. That'd be really good.
So anyway,
all right. No, it's a fair point. And I think moral of the story for this segment, we got to see more McGreevy. I believe we will. They're probably going to send him. They are going to send him down because he's the 27th man. They have to. He's not eligible to be recalled until the 24th. We will see him most likely like 99.5% at some point between the 24th and July 3rd. We want to see more. All right. Wrapping that one up, quick message from HelloFresh, and then Bernie and I are back with you to talk about some NL Central division matchups coming up.
By now, you know that HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit and that you can choose from 60 recipes every week. But what you might not know is that AJ wants me to describe some of the recent meals that are on the menu. So here we go. Sun-dried tomato grilled cheese sandos. That was easy. Panko-crusted chimichurri barramundi.
Yes.
Let's go.
Nailed it.
That
sounds delicious too, by the way.
It does.
And listen, as someone that uses HelloFresh a lot, they come in these little bags with all the ingredients in a bag. You take it out of the bag. It gives you instructions. The recipe's in there. You got to do a little cooking so you feel like you did some stuff. Highest quality ingredients, just delicious for meals.
That's right. Make your summer enjoyable and delicious by signing up for HelloFresh at HelloFresh.com/FT10FM and then get 10 free meals with a free item for life. That's HelloFresh.com/FT10FM for 10 free meals and a free item in every box, one per box with active subscription. Free meals are applied as a discount on the first box. New subscribers only, varies by plan.
All right. After this White Sox game, the Cardinals come back to Busch Stadium, 7-game homestand against the Reds, and then 4 against the Cubs. 13 of their next 16 games versus NL Central opponents. I cannot believe we are over a third of the way through the season, and we have not seen the Chicago Cubs yet. This is a huge series. We got to get through the Reds first. I get that. I understand one series at a time. But let's not minimize where the things are in the NL Central standings. Let me look them up right now because I'm not sure if they've changed. Did the Cubs
I think the Reds were getting beat bad today. I assume they lost, but I guess I shouldn't account on that.
Okay, so the Brewers beat the Cubs and the Reds lost. So the Cardinals, they'll pick up half a game today. Could move if they win 5.5 games back from the Cubs, tied with the Brewers. A 4-game series, a lot can go down there. So am I being dramatic by saying this week is super telling for how the Cardinals trade deadline will go?
No, I think you're right because, first of all, I think the Cubs are going to run away with the division, but you still want to see how you measure up against them. And if you can win that series somehow, win 3 out of 4, it'd be good for your psyche and a lot of other things. But you also have to handle Cincinnati, because Cincinnati, let me look at my notes here. Like with the loss today, they've still won 9 out of their last 12, and they're 19 and 12 in their last 31 games. Their starting pitching's really good, even with Hunter Green out. They've been scoring a lot more runs, even though they plugged in what's his name, Paglia or Pagat. I'm sorry, he's been a lights out closer. So all of a sudden, that thing looks a lot more firmed up. And I'm not saying they're a super team, but they're clearly playing better. And these two teams split in Cincinnati. Now the Reds, despite the loss today, they're going to come in here, kind of strutting a little bit. It's all right. We're Terry Francona's team now. We straighten some things out. Let's go get the Cardinals and beat them in their place. So I do think it is. I use this word a lot. I think it really is a good test for the Cardinals, because look, I never, ever deduct points from when the Cardinals beat up on a bad team. And if they sweep the White Sox or they win 2 out of 3, they did their job. Okay. I don't nitpick that, because you can't lose to bad teams. So if you beat them, you get credit for that. But now the next 7 games after this, it's going to be challenge time for sure. And I don't want to overlook the Reds, because the Reds, if you look at the 4 starting pitchers that are healthy, Abbott and Lodolo and Singer and Martinez, their last 24 starts, combined, their ERA is a little over 3. So the Reds are coming in here with some great pitching. And I think that I think it's going to be fascinating to see if the Reds are better than the Cardinals now. And they're about a dead heat in the standings. So, or is this going to be the Cardinal series to sort of push back and say, okay, we went through some hard times, right? We're feeling better now. We're going to take you down in our place. I don't know. I kind of love the psychology of this series the next 3 days before you even get to the Cubs.
I'm with you. And I'll say it, I'm kind of a Reds hater, because every year I come in and I'm like, oh, they could surprise some people. Right. They have, an athletic roster. I was hoping to see some things under Terry Francona. I like their pitching. And then every year they're just kind of like 500. And I'm like, why did I believe? So I decided not to believe this year. And I'm a little skeptical on if this is sustainable, but you make great points about this Reds team. And this is going to be a very compelling series. And I like what you said about, is this something where the Cardinals went through a tough stretch, which they knew. They knew coming into June that this was going to be brutal. They knew this was going to be tough, and they knew that this might not go according to plan. I think we just all really underestimated the amount of consecutive games in a row and how much of a toll that would take, especially when you had players like Jordan Walker unavailable for 2 weeks. Lars Nootbaar had to take a little mini hiatus. Brendan Donovan out for 4 games. So you're relying on a lot of depth that the Cardinals don't really have. Now, if they can come in against the Reds and take care of business and, at least split against the Cubs, are you feeling more confident like the May version of the Cardinals? And are you more likely to say, okay, the first 2 weeks of June was kind of just a fluke and part of the ups and downs of this baseball season? Because I'm inclined to think, just depending on how the games go, if they go 4-3 against the Cubs and the Reds, I'm more inclined to get back to the May side than the June side.
It's a fascinating thing, because the more I watch them, and I look at the fact that before they went on that 14-3 tear, okay, they were 5 games under 500, and then once that was over, or once one of their big streaks, maybe their 20-7 streak was over, then since then they were, until these last couple wins, they were like 3 or 4 games under 500. So they've had the one hot streak, but they've been a losing team in the 2 other phases of the season. So what that tells me, I think, because every time I lock in on the Cardinals, they do something different. Like I think, oh, they're returning to earth, and then they go flying again. Here they come. So I think for this team, here's what I think. For this team to be consistently good, I'm not saying great, but consistently good, where they avoid those down times that take a lot out of them. For that to happen, they have to have so many guys, position players and pitchers, like sort of playing close to their ceiling of ability. And if those guys who when the team's going well, they're kind of collectively reaching their ceiling as individuals, right? But they're not quite established where that consistency is there. So if they're not hitting their ceilings or they're not close to their ceilings, and we saw that with the lineup recently, and you have about 4 or 5 guys at one time who just aren't hitting, it's pretty ugly. Or your rotation, a couple, 3 of your starters go through a rut. It's pretty ugly. So I'm not saying they have to be great, but I think it's a team that, frankly, is kind of wired to have a lot of ups and downs. But how do they get past the part of it's inevitable to have a lot of ups and downs? You know what I mean? I'm kind of looking at it from an overview standpoint, but I'm still not sure who they are, except maybe that's who they are. They're going to be an up and down team.
And in a season that's designated for runway and opportunity and adjusting and readjusting, that does make sense. Does it make it easy for us? No. Does it make it easy for the fans? No. But they're not boring. And in this season where expectations were on the floor and there was an overall just whatever, apathetic, frustrated, disinterested view over this organization, having a baseball team that is objectively not boring and performing above expectations, highs and lows aside, I think that we can get on board with that. I'm not saying that they're going to go and make the playoffs. I have no idea what their trade deadline is going to look like. I have no idea in the next 4 weeks how their play is going to impact those decisions. And I have no idea how not Mo, not Chaim Bloom, how ownership will respond to their play. Because ultimately, those are the ones making the decisions this year. Mo will have all the say over, the baseball operations standpoint. But as far as the finances go and the money and the payroll, that's ownership. So all those things outside of our control, the thing that we can watch every day is this team play. And when you have a team that is learning the big leagues in real time, you're going to see players like Victor Scott II have some real low weeks. You're going to see Lars Nootbaar have some real low weeks. You're going to see Brendan Donovan have some highs. And you're going to see Matthew Liberatore be really good one start and not so good the next start. And that's kind of, I think you nailed it, Bernie. Like the overall approach for this Cardinals team is there's going to be some highs and lows. And if they can figure out a way to weather the highs a little bit more consistently, maybe we have a much more exciting second half than we originally thought.
Can I throw one more thing into, and the guys that we are coming into the season, and I should have, it just occurred to me to think of it this way, or I would have written down a list of names so I didn't forget anybody. But the guys who came into the season with established records who are good, and we expected them to be good, maybe even great. Those guys, I understand the fluctuations with the people trying to get established, but Sonny Gray's got to be more consistent. They really need Ryan Helsley to fix that fastball. They really need that because they're going to play a lot of tight games. He's nowhere close to himself, at least based on 2024. That was a nice save today. But until that fastball gets fixed, you're not sure what to expect from him from save opportunity to save opportunity. And that's a really dangerous thing for the Cardinals because last year they were not a super team. And I'm not putting all this on Helsley, but they were not a super team last year. But why did they win 83 games? Because the bullpen, the setup guys were great. And he just basically went boom every time he came out to put one away. And that's not the case this year. And during this bad stretch they've been in and coming out of, he was really shaky. So I don't mean to put it all on Sonny Gray, but I'm just saying Sonny Gray is the guy that leads your rotation. He's got to be a hammer. Ryan Helsley's got to be a hammer. Who else would you put in that category? A guy a hitter or pitcher that's established as being really good. And the Cardinals need them to be really good. I mean, or else if they fluctuate just like the young guys, then you're not going to be real successful consistently. Who else would you put in that camp?
You're right on with Sonny Gray. They're paying him to be the ace. He needs to pitch like the ace. And he's had a good season, but you'd like to see him be a little bit more consistent. Helsley, couldn't agree more. I'd say Contreras, and he has done that. I mean, the first 2 weeks of the season were not great. But since then, he's been one of their most productive hitters. And honestly, I would have said heading into the season, Nolan Arenado, but the OPS is right around 700 right now. And yet the offense seems to be doing okay without him because, I mean, I'm not saying he's not contributing. He's had 10 homers on the year. but he's not contributing to the level that the Cardinals needed him to, or that he expects of himself. But the reason that they've been able to get away from that and be okay with that is because guys like Brendan Donovan and Ivan Herrera have come up and really established themselves as legit major league hitters in different ways. Brendan Donovan is the contact, get on base kind of guy. And Herrera he's like their big moment bat. When was the last time the Cardinals had a bat in the lineup where in late inning game situation, runners in scoring position, you felt good about it? You're like, you know who's going to come through for us right now?
Sure.
Ivan Herrera. And in this very short sample size, he's given me a ton of confidence in those big moments. So I wouldn't say that they need to perform this year, because that shouldn't be the expectation. But now that those two have proven that they can, and they've set the expectations for themselves going forward, they need to be able to sustain this if the Cardinals want to be good.
That's exactly right. And I love watching Ivan Herrera bat. I don't like watching him catch, but I love watching him swing the bat. And he's such a confident hitter, and he's so smart. And the thing about it is, and we saw him go through a drought recently, and he got through it. He's smart. He adjusted. He figured out what they were doing. He's a very cerebral guy when it comes to hitting a baseball and wondering what pitchers are going to do. He doesn't get tricked a lot. So he's only going to get better and better and better. And that's pretty exciting for the Cardinals and their fans for the future. But I'm with you on Wilson Contreras. He is I don't know about the inner dynamics of leadership in the clubhouse, about who gives the speeches and all that, if anybody gives speeches anymore. But certainly his presence and his personality and his intensity on the field, as we saw in Milwaukee, saw it a little bit in this series. I think his younger teammates are just really fired up by him. He's fearless. Yeah. He doesn't give a damn. You know?
No, he's not, as evidenced by his interview post-game on Saturday against the Brewers. Look, I have learned in my 5 years on the beat that you should always expect the unexpected. I did not expect Wilson Contreras to go sicko mode on the live post-game show.
Yeah.
Can't repeat those words on this TV. My grandma watches the show sometimes, so I will not. But I think we all know what incident we're talking about with Wilson. But let me tell you, the clubhouse was like shocked for a second. Those young guys were like, no way he just said that. Because we're in the visiting club, it's much smaller, so you hear everything. Right. And all of a sudden, just like, they just erupted. They were like, no way. Like, who says that? But he's done a really nice job, I think. And Nolan, too, of letting this clubhouse, these young guys, be themselves this year. Where in 21 and 22, 23, go on, there were a bunch of established veterans with a high expectation of not just how baseball should be played, but how being a Cardinal should look and feel. And I'm not taking away from that, because obviously those veterans, no matter what ones you're thinking of, have had tremendous success, both personally and with the team. And when you're the St. Louis Cardinals, it's so important to have a culture established in that clubhouse. But this is not a normal year for St. Louis, right? It's a time where they can start to establish their own culture. And Contreras and Arenado said, okay, we're going to let them do that. And Sonny Gray said, I'm going to let them do that. I'm going to let those pitchers come to me. I'll be there for them. And he has been. I mean, Sonny has a different pitcher with him every day. But we're going to let them figure out what they want their culture to be, and we're going to give them the opportunity to develop there as well. And that's done a lot, maybe more than I would have expected.
Smart. It is. It's really smart. And listen, as someone who chronicled the Cardinals during the Tony La Russa era and even beyond, because they were still really good through 2015, the whole Cardinal way thing mattered. And the whole Cardinal way thing was also misrepresented a lot by people in the media, but even Mike Matheny, the manager, it was never meant to be like, oh, we're holier than thou. We have good morals. And that message sort of got put out there by, frankly, some of the stuff Mike Matheny would say. And then all of a sudden the rest, national baseball media, they're sort of making fun of it. It's like, these guys are a little bit haughty here. Okay. Mm-hmm. That part of it was just ridiculous, right? But the basic fundamentals and the principles that the Cardinal way that started by George Kissel, what they represent, that was a real thing, and they really, really matter. However, and I'll be quick here. However, that culture from a baseball standpoint is still really something to aspire to. But I think the Cardinals were too slow to adapt to the fact young players today, it's just a different vibe. It's a different set of cultural standards. And you have to let guys be who they are. It can't be a library in there. Like if you have a loose clubhouse with the young guys, you know, you can't be like, oh, well, we better keep it down. You know, we just got to look from the, you know, you can't have that. You got to let them be who they are. To your point, I'm backing up your point because, you know, the Cardinal way thing from a baseball standpoint will live forever if people take care of it. But the Cardinals did get a little too haughty there for a while, and they're little too like buttoned down, and we're the Cardinals and we're immaculate and all that stuff had to go away. You got to let the boys be boys. Look at all the great teams. Look at how much fun they have. Look at how loose they are. They get dirty on the field. I mean, they're kind of rowdy. You know, they play pranks on each other. They kind of put all their personality out there. You got to adapt with the times.
Yeah, agreed. And, you know, we hear a lot after games or bad weeks where the veterans are like, hey, I really like where our heads are at. Or you hear Ollie like, oh, I really like where the club is at right now. And I know fans roll their eyes and they're like, we like winning games. I get it. But someone who's in the clubhouse every game, the first time the Cardinals lost, I walked in there and they had music playing, not bumping, not super loud, but just like music like to, hey, we're going home. We'll go get them tomorrow. And I remember myself and a couple of reporters stopping and looking around like, we've never heard that. Usually after losses in years prior, you could hear your footsteps in the clubhouse and we'd all have to like whisper in our post-game interviews because it just was so quiet. Now it's like, hey, we lost, but don't worry, we're going to be back tomorrow. We're going to be in a good spot. So I agree with you, Bernie. I really like where these young kids are at. And we'll talk about a couple more young kids in our final segment. First, though, from a message from PXG.
It is summertime. We are in the thick of golf season. It's always golf season down in Florida, but we're in the thick of golf season across the country, and someone's looking to get a new club. That logo should say it all. PXG. What do they do?
Go get fitted. Mm-hmm. Go get fitted by one of their master fitters, professional fitters. I've done it. It's helped shave many strokes off my handicap. It is worth it. It's educational. You learn about not only clubs, you learn about shafts, you learn about grips, you learn about angles. They have all the numbers, all the setups that you need to help improve your handicap.
You feel like a VIP when you're there.
100%. They even help my putting, which needed help.
Mm-hmm. There. They help your putting there. That's how cool it is. So schedule your fitting today, and for a limited time, you could save up to 20% on your entire order. Head over to pxg.com/foul. That's pxg.com/foul to save up to 20% on your entire order. pxg.com/FOUL. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
All right, vibe check. It's still 6-1 St. Louis in the bottom of the fifth.
And by the way, how about Alec Burleson?
How about Alec Burleson?
I mean, now he's crushing left-handed pitchers.
Yeah,
you know,
shot from the opposite field. He had a ball at his freaking eyeballs.
I know, and it's just like I was watching that because it's right before I got ready to come on with you, and it's like I think he's figured this out, you know, and boy, he's fun to watch, and that's one of the, to me. I know we're going to talk about some younger players, but he's kind of in between because he's not like this, you know, highly experienced seasoned major league player, and he's still 26. He still had some things to prove, but he may be the success story if you're looking for like so-called runway or near runway players. He may be like the best thing that's happened so far, right? And you know, it's certainly with position players.
And this is a player who saw his runway cut. Him and Gorman, just by nature of not being able to trade Arenado, we know that. But that brings us to a great segue as always, Bernie. Who's in the lineup and who's out? I'll tell you this: I don't know Ollie Marmol right now because he needs to play the kids, right? Opportunity for Walker, for Gorman, for Burleson, for Newbar, take your pick, Mason Wynn, Brendan Donovan. And it's impossible to play all of those players at the same time. And here's where things get a little dicey. We talked about Ivan Herrera earlier in the show. The plan was for Herrera to be the starting catcher every day, Pedro Pages to be the backup. Pozo was never part of the plan, okay? And then Nolan Gorman, your starting DH, put Donovan at second, Lars Newbar in left, mix in opportunities for Burleson in the corners, or as the DH, leave Walker in right. That was the formula. It wasn't perfect, but it was, you know what, this is how we can guarantee the most at-bats. Gorman and Burleson are going to see a little bit reducted, but overall, we feel pretty good about it. And then what happened? Pedro Pages emerged as the far, far superior defensive catcher, so he needs to play every day. But there's no way the Cardinals are taking Herrera's bat out of the lineup. So now you have a logjam. And no matter what lineup Ollie Marmol rolls out, because he's rolled out 3 different ones in 3 games, someone that should be playing is on the bench. And there's no way he can get around it. Bernie, who are the players that have to be playing for you every single day?
Well, Pahe should be the catcher, not every single day, but, but he should be. Contreras should be the first baseman for sure. Burleson taking some turns there when Contreras needs a day off, or he DHs. Donovan should be the second baseman. Wynn, Arenado speaking himself. You got to stick with Newt Barn left. You ride with Scott for a while. You just got to have faith in him. He's a smart guy. I think he's going to adjust and start to hit a little better. Looks like he is. And Walker, listen, he is like Mr. Runway. You got to stick with him too. So Alec Burleson has secured his spot in the lineup. Like he's moved ahead of Gorman in terms of the left-handed hitter pecking order. The only thing that frustrates me a little bit about the Gorman situation, and you and I were we still are in the play Gorman camp, and we do realize, like you said, as Kevin Wheeler, my colleague KMOX said, Ollie's got this Rubik's Cube every day, and he's trying to figure it out, and it's just you never can really get it to line up. The only thing, like what bothered me, I'll give you an example. Ollie and everybody's preaching patience about Nolan Gorman. It's like, listen, for this guy to be a good major league hitter, he just had to tear it all down and start from scratch, and he has to improve his plate approach, his plate discipline. And he's not going to be swinging as hard because he can't be just gripping it and ripping it. So he's going to be a little more, not tentative, but he's going to be a little more deliberate because he has to get a sense of what a pitcher's trying to do. He's got to think more and rip less. Well, he didn't get the results, but the lessons, he absorbed the lessons, and his plate discipline improved. And I know we said 3 weeks ago, said, like, listen, the results probably are going to start to come now. And the results have been coming now. He went through, since May the 26th up, to the start of the Chicago series, among players that had like 40, 45 plate appearances. Nolan Gorman was leading them in batting average, on-base percentage, slugging, OPS, and walk rate. Okay? Small sample, but still, sign of progress. He's awesome in the Milwaukee series. He even hits a 3-run homer off a lefty. And he laid down that bunt single that should have really, won the game for them or set it up. What was he doing sitting on the bench the first game of the White Sox series when they start a right-handed pitcher? Why in the world would he be on the bench in that situation? Like,
that was the question that I would have loved to ask Ollie, because I have this thought.
Because the guy has done everything they wanted him to do, and they told him, you have to do this. Brett, you got to move in with Brent Brown. You got to throw all this away and build it back up again. And then he's starting to do it. And the dude's like hitting bombs off left-handed pitcher at a big spot, right? And he's not in the lineup against a right-handed starter. Like the first game in Chicago, I was just like, I know Ollie is in a really tough spot. I get it. And I talk to him about these type of decisions every Tuesday on KMOX. But that was an example of just me saying, no, that's just not right.
Yeah, so, he should have been in there. I agree. And then you get to the but question, but who are you sitting? Because if you're going to play Gorman and Donovan, aren't you sitting Burleson? And Burleson deserves to play just as much. And then are you going to sit Walker? Mr. Runway, I'm going to start calling him that. Great nickname. I mean, if you want to play your best bats, sure. But that's how many lefties in the lineup then? 5? Okay. Do you know how easy it is to game plan against as an opposing manager? Plus, if this is a runway season, Walker, priority number 1. And you're not taking Newbar out, and you shouldn't take Victor Scott out. They have to adjust and go through the trials and tribulations as well. There is no perfect lineup for the St. Louis Cardinals right now. No matter who's in, you can make the argument that they need to be there, and whoever's on the bench, you can make the argument they should be starting.
I do. I think at one point, one of these runway players like Gorman, they gave him a lot to do to sort of get his head back and just become a new type of hitter. And he had some real momentum going. And I don't care who has to sit. You don't interrupt his momentum by sitting him on a bench.
He is so freaky. You're so right.
You pull the plug on that. So anyway, now, am I overreacting to one decision? Yes, I am. But I was just like really, really excited by what Nolan Gorman was doing. And by the way, I think he had a double in this game, the second game today. So anyway, I get that. And I feel bad for Ali because he didn't create this roster. He didn't construct it. Ali dropped a hint on KMOX with us on Tuesday when we were asking about Barrero, Sajaci. I proposed a scenario to him to where he actually could find some playing time for Sajaci, 2 or 3 starts a week, 2 starts plus off the bench. And he actually agreed with that. He said, yeah, there's a way to do it. It would mean more rest for win, more making sure Donovan isn't running to the ground, Arenado maybe getting more breathers. And he said, yeah, he could help us during the week in a number of ways. Yeah. But he made a point of saying, he said, but that's a front office thing. Like they make the roster decisions. And I got to talk to him because I don't want to take that the wrong way that he was just sort of pointing a finger. But I have the feeling that he would like to have Sajaci up here. And that was a comical moment actually Tuesday when we asked him about Barrero and I pointed out that he doesn't play. And Ali said, well, okay, I get it. Sajaci. He said, but he would be replacing a guy who doesn't play.
Right. So who's Sajaci? Sit on the bench.
And we're like
about on who's not playing.
And I know what he meant. I know what he meant. Sajaci's got to play if he's up here. But fans were like, wait a minute. He just said you can't bring Sajaci up here to replace a guy who's not playing. And the fans were going nuts in the comments. They're like, if he's not playing, like, well, why is he here?
Let's use some critical thinking skills here.
And I understand what Ali meant. It just came out wrong. I know what he meant.
Right.
Because you can't have Sajaci up here sitting on the bench all the time. Like Barrero, you can't.
No, but Barrero can sit on the bench. That's why he's the 26th man.
Right.
Every season, I know there is an obsession about the 26th man and why he is never used and why it's a waste of space, no matter who it is. And I just want to say that is the point of the 26th man, to have depth, to fill in a role when needed. That is the point. Jose Barrero's role is to cover for Mason Wynn when needed in a doubleheader like today and pinch run if they need him to. Good teams have that as their 26th man. Now, sometimes they have a little bit better option than the Cardinals have had for the 26th man from an overall skill standpoint. But that's the whole point of the 26th man. And Thomas Sajaci is not going to be here to be a 26th man. That's a disservice to everybody.
I get it. From like you said, critical thinking, I get it. But
how he said it was hilarious, though. I did laugh.
It was funny. That was the thing. I wasn't upset, but I wasn't like ticked off about it. I was just kind of like, I can't believe he said that because, the fans were just going nuts, and he just kind of walked right into that one. But I get it. I don't want Sajaci coming up here and sitting around. But then again, I think Sajaci could probably be used a couple times a week and come off the bench during games. I do wonder, Katie, and I don't want to drag this out, and I apologize, but I do wonder. I can't sit here and draw up a grid with the schedule. He's the manager, but I do think Arenado should get a little more time off. I know Wynn should, absolutely.
Mason
and Donovan, with the toe, and I admire him a great deal, but if something's bothering him, you got to get it taken care of. You don't run that guy into the ground. See, I think Ali's got to be careful about that. And see, that's where a Sajaci, in theory, would fit in. And he would have a role. But I don't know that Ali's going to back off playing these guys basically every day.
I'm not sure if it feels like he can. One, good luck getting Arenado to agree to a day off.
Exactly.
Doesn't happen. Two, who's on the bench is going to help you? Okay, you take Mason Wynn, give him a day, and you start Brendan Donovan. Okay, that's fine. Like, it's not your best option at shortstop, but it's major league serviceable, and you feel okay there. Right. You take Donovan out of the game, and you play Gorman at second. Sure, for a day, because the defensive difference is dramatic between Donovan and Gorman at second base. So he's balancing. All he is runway versus results and putting his best lineup out there, but also try not to run these guys into the ground. And I don't know. It's just so complicated as evidenced by this section. There is no 100% easy answer that everyone's going to agree to.
And we go back to the beginning because we should never forget the number one factor in all this. They tried to trade Arenado. They thought they had a trade. They were confident they could trade him. They couldn't. He came back. See, and by the way, this isn't me saying boo to Arenado. I love watching this guy play. Like today, watching this doubleheader, he's making plays left and right. I mean, he's
so fun.
His defense is so entertaining, and he's actually been hitting pretty well lately. But when they couldn't trade Arenado, it clogged everything up. Because if Arenado had been traded, Gorman would be playing a lot more. Sajasi would be up here. We could take it right on down the line with some of these other players. But with him still at third, it just sort of, like I said, it kind of clogs up the drain, right? You don't have that flow. So what are you going to do though? And gosh, I'm so tired of reading stories not written locally.
That's the worst part. Show up to
everyone's got Arenado. Oh, here's a trade. Oh, here's what, and they always leave out little things like, oh yeah, he's got a no trade clause. Oh yeah, he's owed about $55 million, $50 million if you subtract the Rockies' money. Maybe the other team doesn't want to pick up all $50 million of that. Maybe because they say we'll take his defense, but not at $50 million. But everybody, I'm just so tired of our profession sometimes. Here, I'm being the grumpy old man.
That's okay.
Where it's kind of like, you know what? Just stop writing stuff about where you're matchmaking Arenado with like 5 teams.
You think nothing from this offseason? It's not that easy.
Exactly. It's just
that easy.
And what bothers me about it is that there are fans who read this stuff and they think, oh yeah, see, they could trade him to Philadelphia. See, they could trade him to the Dodgers. See, like it's easy. It's actually incredibly complex, and it ain't going to happen. You think Bill DeWitt wants to pay off half of what they owe him to make a deal like that?
Oh,
I don't.
Absolutely not. The whole reason they wanted to trade him was to offload the salary, as we know.
And he's a beloved Cardinal now. He really is. The fans love him too. And that's the other thing. If you're still in contention, you think John Mozeliak is going to cut this team's heart out by trading Nolan Arenado?
No.
Katie, could you become the sports media czar and just put an end to all this stuff?
No, because
I guess
I have tried, but no one cares because it's much easier to write about like hypotheticals and speculation because the truth is boring. So,
but I'm sorry about my rant. So
no, that's okay. I mean,
you have things to do.
We needed the rant because our beloved listeners haven't had one in a couple of weeks, so we'll be better about that. We gave them a long episode too, so I know
that's my fault.
No, I liked it because it was fun. It was lots to talk about. We'll wrap it up with one more. We'll bring this one back.
Okay.
Play the Kids, free Michael McGreevy. Big showdown over the next week in the NL Central at Busch Stadium. Bernie and I will be back to recap Cardinals Reds. Disclaimer, I'm only going to be there for Friday's game, but I will be watching from home Saturday and Sunday. I got some weird scheduling going on this week. So hopefully we are recapping another series win. Looks good for Michael McGreevy's out of this game. Riley O'Brien.
Yeah, 5 innings, 3 hits, 1 solo homer, 1 run, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts.
What was the pitch count?
Hold on 1 second. 75.
All right. Just keeping him fresh for that spot start.
Get him out of here.
Get him out. He's done his job.
You got to get him out of here.
Bernie, we have finished up another episode of Cardinal Territory.
Thank you.
So as always, this was super fun. We'll get back to you guys all on Sunday. And talk soon. Thanks, Bernie.
Take care.